You should feel relieved when the pressure finally drops. Instead, you fall apart. The long weekend that should feel like rest produces a low-grade dread. The vacation you planned for months leaves you feeling worse by day two. The quiet evening that everyone else finds restorative produces restlessness you can't explain. This is not a character flaw. It's a physiological state, and it has a specific mechanism. Vacations are harder than work weeks. Not all of them, but enough that you've started to notice the pattern. The first day you feel fine, productive, managing. By day two, something shifts. Tension without a clear source. An impulse to check email that has nothing to do with obligation. By day three, you feel genuinely unwell. And by the time the vacation ends, you feel almost yourself again, right as you walk back through the door. Or this version. You perform brilliantly under stress. Deadlines bring out clarity. Crises bring out competence. You know this about yourself, and you've made peace with it. But you've also noticed that when the pressure comes off, when the project ends, when the weekend arrives, when the house is finally quiet, something you can't name gets worse. You've called yourself a busy person, a high performer, someone who needs stimulation. That's a label, not an explanation. The standard framing is personality. You're wired for intensity. You thrive under pressure. Some people are just built that way. And there is something right about that. High performers do develop real skills under pressure. But the experience of feeling genuinely worse when things calm down, the physical heaviness, the mood drop, the inexplicable fatigue, that is not personality. That is a specific physiological event, and it has a name. Here's the mechanism. When the body has been running on adrenaline as its primary operating fuel, the adrenaline doesn't just appear during stress. It becomes the floor, the minimum level of activation the system needs to maintain baseline function, cognitive clarity, emotional regulation, physical capability. Think of it as a minimum operating threshold. Below that threshold, the system doesn't have enough activation to function normally. Above it, everything runs. The body has adapted to need a certain level of adrenaline just to stay online. When the external pressure decreases, the project ends, the vacation begins, the weekend arrives, the stimulation that was maintaining that floor goes away. The adrenaline begins to fall. And as it approaches the threshold, the body does what it always does when a critical system approaches its limit. It activates a rescue response. Restlessness, anxiety, irritability, the impulse to check your phone, the need to find something to do, the manufacture of urgency that has no external source. Your body is trying to rebuild the floor. If the floor isn't rebuilt, if you actually manage to stay still, the system eventually drops below the threshold. This is what I call the dump. Sudden fatigue, brain fog, physical heaviness, the feeling of being slightly ill without being sick. Not because something went wrong, because the borrowed energy the system was running on finally ran out. What people experience as needing a few days to decompress is often the stall and dump cycle completing. Day one, restlessness, can't quite settle, rebuilding the floor. Day two or three, the dump arrives, feeling genuinely unwell. Day four or five, the system settles at a lower baseline, finally quiet. Just in time to go back. You weren't decompressing. You were cycling through withdrawal from your own stress chemistry. When people say they're running on adrenaline, what we measure in the clinic is cortisol rhythm disruption. The adrenaline is what you feel. The cortisol curve is what it looks like under the hood. The stall and dump is what happens when borrowed fire runs out and the system has nothing to fall back on. Genuine rest requires a system that can sustain baseline without external support. That means the nervous system can regulate itself downward without producing a rescue response. It can tolerate quiet without interpreting it as a threat. It can enter recovery states, deep sleep, parasympathetic activation, genuine stillness, without the floor dropping out. When that capacity is compromised, calm doesn't feel like rest, it feels like falling. If calm feels worse than busy, your system has lost access to genuine rest. Not because you're wired wrong, not because you need to learn to meditate harder, because your body organized itself around external demand when internal regulation was no longer available. The restlessness is not a personality trait, it's a physiological signal. Your body isn't failing to relax, it's trying to survive the only way it currently knows how. And that is something that can be understood, and with the right direction, restored. 2 decades of clinical practice, 5 distinct stages, each with a specific clinical picture, measurable markers, and a specific direction of treatment. What restores you below a certain threshold actively depletes you above it. The map is in the course. The link is in the description. In the description below is a free 5-day course. Day 1 alone will change how you read every morning you've ever had. Over 5 days, I'll walk you through the full mechanism, what's happening in your body, how it progresses, why conventional approaches miss it, and what genuine recovery actually requires. The link is in the description. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Dr. Jason Trombley, DAOM, AP. This is the Adrenaline Project.